Ontario Municipal Association, Roma. Any interest on getting on the rural Ontario Municipal? I think Rob looks like he really wants to volunteer, so I think that's
I'll be happy to move it, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Ferguson, seconded by Councillor Pearson. We have to ask, Councillor, are you willing to serve? Yeah, I think I do, yeah. Have you shaken his hand? If he takes a swing at you, you're dead. Councillor, what is your wish?
Mayor Eisenberger, yes, I will stand.
Okay, we're duly honored then. Thank you. On item 513, all in favor? Carried. 514, Ontario Good Roads Association. Yeah, volunteer or enthusiasts for that? It's not a requirement to have a representation. So if there's not an interest in that, at this point in time, we can always appoint someone later on. What is your wish? No action at this point in time? Okay, thank you. Received by Councillor Partridge, seconded by Councillor Pearson. All in favor? Item 15, 815, recommendation from Mr. Earl Bassey, the Integrity Commissioner. Recommendation that it be received. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Collins, may I have a motion on the communications as presented, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, you may. It's that I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Marula, that Council Communications 5.1 through 5.15 be approved as amended and as follows, and everyone has that in front of them.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Whitehead, may I have a motion to move into Committee of the Whole for consideration of the committee reports?
Certainly can, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by my colleague, Councillor Scott Devell, that the Council move into Committee of the Whole for consideration of committee reports.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. I'm going to turn this over to our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Collins, for the committee reports.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Welcome back, everyone. The Public Works Committee presents Report 14-012 and respectfully recommends item number 1,
Carried.
item number 2,
Carried.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Carried.
8,
Carried.
and 9. Councillor Marula, may I have a motion to approve the Public Works Report 14-12 as presented?
Yes, it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Jackson that it be moved accordingly.
All those in favor?
Carried.
Carries. Thank you. The Planning Committee presents Report 14-016 and respectfully recommends item number 1,
Carried.
2,
Carried.
item 3,
Carried.
item 4,
Carried.
5,
Carried.
item number 6,
Carried.
7.
Carried.
Carried.
Thank you, Councillor Partridge. Item number 8,
Carried.
item number 9,
Carried.
10,
Carried.
and item 10. Councillor Farr.
Thank you, Councillor. Give us a little breath here. This is the establishment of a specialized bylaw enforcement unit. We had a good debate on this, and we appreciate our municipal law enforcement staff bringing this forward. We have this issue all over the city as it relates to noise, particularly after hours. We had a report, as we discussed in Planning Committee, from late 2000s that suggested that safety is an issue for our bylaw officers, as you know, and some debate since that it would be helpful to have Hamilton Police Services step up, offer an officer, particularly at the busy times as noted in this report, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights after 1 o'clock. So through you to staff, I just want to make clear, because near the end of the day, it is Planning Committee, and we did discuss that in the report as it related to the costing for our Hamilton Police Services, we had a price point of about $70K. They were eating the administrative costs. It is a paid duty officer. I had noticed some representation from HBS in the gallery, asked the question, are we confirmed on those dates throughout the year, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday? They said it was based on availability. The price point, however, does not jive, because that's based on a year's salary for a paid duty. So I want to confirm that as we move forward, because this is simply asking that consideration be given through the budget process, that we make certain we have that dialogue with Hamilton Police Services, that we can contemplate at least paying per as opposed to annual, and thus fund it a little more appropriately. Through you to maybe Jason.
Mr. Thorne.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. You're correct. As part of the planning committee discussions, it was noted that that the police service would make every effort to have a special duty officer available to go out on calls with our bylaw enforcement officer. We haven't had a chance yet to confirm yet whether or not the to your question, whether or not they'd be available, could confirm their availability for every single one of those evenings. As they noted during the deliberations, it was based on availability and whether there's emergency calls that evening. The one event in particular that was noted was during Pan Am time, when many of their special duty officers would be otherwise engaged.
So between now and our budget deliberation on this matter, we can expect to you, General Manager Jason Thorne, that we'll get some resolve on this from Hamilton Police Services, that instead of seeing a report that notes the cost over a year for Thursday, Friday, Saturday night paid duty policing, it would be instead looked at per availability. So it could potentially be, even with Pan Am, much less than the $70K in the report that was set for approval.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Councillor Marula.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And let me start off by saying I appreciated council's support on this particular initiative. It's one of those items where, as a result of our advocacy and dealing with complaints on a regular basis, that we formulate a plan of action to try to deal with it. And what I found that was amazing was the fact that during peak hours, particularly after hours and in weekends, that we had a bylaw in place, but we had no resources to actually in any way pursue the enforcement of those bylaws. To me, any bylaw that exists that's not being enforced or is not as a result of either resources or being ignored is not worth having on the books. So as a direct result of that, I did work closely with staff, so I must thank Marty Hazel, as well as Bill Young, but also our police services. At first, they were somewhat reluctant for whatever reason to pursue a common ground, but they did on this particular file come together and find a solution which obviously will put us in a situation where we're getting a complaint, we can actually have the resource available to actually pursue it, as opposed to simply say we have no one to enforce the law. So as a result of that, this pilot project I foresee as being permanent subsequent to the data coming forward, because if we don't make it permanent, we might as well not even have any noise bylaws in place. So I appreciate your time, and I look forward to this being implemented accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. On item 10. Thank you. Councillor Partridge, may I have a motion to approve Planning Report 14-016 as presented?
Yes, you certainly may, Mr. Deputy Mayor. It is moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Brenda Johnson that the 16th report of the Planning Committee be adopted and the information section received.
All those in favor? Thank you. The General Issues Committee presents Report 14-021 and respectfully recommends item number 1.
Carried.
Item number 2.
Carried.
Item number 3.
Carried.
4.
Carried.
Item number 5.
Carried.
6.
Carried.
7.
Carried.
8.
Carried.
9.
Carried.
Item number 10.
Carried.
11.
Carried.
12.
Carried.
13.
Carried.
14.
Carried.
15.
Carried.
16.
Carried.
Item number 17.
Carried.
18.
Carried.
19.
Carried.
20.
Carried.
21.
Carried.
22.
Carried.
23.
Carried.
24.
Carried.
25.
Carried.
26.
Carried.
Item number 27.
Carried.
28.
Carried.
29.
Carried.
30.
Carried.
Item 31.
Carried.
32.
Carried.
33.
Carried.
34.
Carried.
Mayor Eisenberger, may I have a motion to approve GIC Report 14-021 as presented?
Moved by myself, seconded by... the microphone. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Partridge, that the 21st report of the General Issues Committee be adopted and the information section received.
All those in favor? Thank you. The Audit and Finance Administration Committee presents Report 14-009 and respectfully recommends item number 1, item number 2, item number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, item 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Councillor Pearson, may I have a motion to approve AF&A Report 14009, please?
Yes, Mr. Deputy Mayor, it's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brenda Johnson, that the 9th report of the Audit, Finance and Administration Committee be adopted and the information section received. I think that number may be incorrect, though, but I'll put that on the table.
Okay, all those
you.
in favor? Thank you. Emergency and Community Services Committee presents Report 14007 and respectfully recommends item number 1, 2, 3, item number 4, 5, 6, 7, item number 7 or 8, Councillor Marula?
On 7, I like the social navigator.
Go ahead.
Just quickly, just want to thank our EMS staff as well as the police services. The social navigator pilot project is one that really is an investment in order to identify those individuals that are vulnerable in our community and basically assess and refer to programs that will seek treatment for them, as opposed to the archaic means of just simply either abandoning their needs or having the police involved and having them pursue charges against someone with mental illness and what have you. In saying that, I just want to commend staff accordingly and look forward to this continuation, and I foresee that this will be a permanent program in the future as well, and I want to commend all those individuals that were involved. Thank you.
That's great, thank you. Item number 7. Item number 8. On item number 8, Councillor Whitehead. Well, let's move on. Item number 8, all those in favor? Carries, thank you. On the information section, Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to draw my colleagues to the information section, page 6 of 6H, a verbal update from Jack Brown, Acting General Manager, Community Emergency Services, respecting the Ontario Work Social Assisted Management System. Mr. Chair, in response to that presentation by Jack, I would like to move a motion and then be able to speak to it in response to it, and then talk about what transpired here this morning between Matthew Green and I, who visit many of the OW offices this morning. So at this point, can I introduce the motion first and then get into the discussion?
Yeah, you'll need a motion to waive the rules first, seconded by
I don't think we need to waive the rules because it's part of the report.
Madam Clerk?
Yeah,
Or
yes,
lifted
Mr. Chair.
from the table, sorry?
Yes, that's it.
My
So
mistake. Go ahead.
I move to lift it from the
Okay.
table.
Moved by yourself, seconded by Councillor Duval. All those in favor? Carries, thank you. Councillor Whitehead, go ahead.
Thank you. The motion is moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Matthew Green. Whereas the Ministry of Community and Social Services implement the Social Assistant Management System, the SAMS commuter system, on November 11, 2014, that is responsible for the management and payment of delivery of social assistant payments to Ontario Works and Ontario Disability Support Programs, ODSP clients, whereas the system is seriously flawed, creating hardship for the most vulnerable residents of Ontario, and unmanageable situation for workers who are struggling to work within the system, and long-term financial cost to the taxpayer, whereas the province has shown an inability to rectify the system issues in a timely manner. Therefore, be it resolved that Mayor Fred Eisberger send a letter to the Honourable Kathleen Wynne, Premier of Ontario, requesting the immediate steps be taken to return the previous system to the previous system, Service Delivery Model Technology, SDMT, while all issues in the new system are resolved, and B, that all local MPPs and the Associated Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, be circulated with a copy of this letter. Mr. Chair, Deputy Mayor, this morning, actually it was pretty alarming when Jack Brown gave us the report at Emergency Community Services. And result of that, it was pretty clear that the morale is at an all-time low amongst many of our OW caseworkers. And so we had offered up, Matthew Green and myself as chair and vice chair, on behalf of this council, to visit every office in the city that provides that service and speak to many of the workers. I want to thank Jack Brown, who accommodated us with the tour. We visited 4 offices this morning, and I can tell you it was a tearjerker. When you listen to the stories being told of checks that are going out that you don't know what the amount is on the check and it's not reconciled with what's on the computer, when you hear stories that we have special services in different divisions of our OW, like employment services and etc., they can no longer deal with their clients in need because they're backfilling to help deal with this debacle within the the management of the SAM system. The amount of work in regards to filling out data on this system is absolutely tenuous. Several pages of inputting. Our staff have developed relationships with their clients, and they can't talk to those clients. And when they do, they can't give them any answers. The frustration that is realized by our frontline workers as a result of the system was tantamount to an absolute mitigated disaster. The reality is that people are being impacted in this community. People are being evicted from their homes. Hydro is being cut off. Certificates are being sent to people that committed suicide. We are talking about human tragedy here. We are talking about not just those people being affected directly, but some of the most committed, dedicated professional staff, and second to none in my humble opinion, are exposed to this frustration with no solution in sight. They feel frustrated with the messaging from the province of Ontario that it's nothing but a snag and that just a few checks went out. Ladies and gentlemen, that is definitely not the case, certainly from not what we heard this morning. There's human tragedy here, both in the service delivery and certainly with the clients that expect those services. This is a Christmas season we're entering into, Mr. Chair. The worst season to end up with this kind of debacle. We have no choice to change the narrative. We know that staff have been in discussions with the Deputy Mayor of the Deputy Minister of the Province of Ontario and Comms to address these issues. They've indicated they're not prepared to flick the switch back. All we're asking, Mr. Chair, is this system isn't working. It should have been beta tested in small communities before it rolled out to the broader community. There's no question that we have workers that are leaving work under stress. There's no question we have workers that are carrying home and going to their families during a Christmas season and carrying the burden of knowing that a 17-month-old child and a single mother has no ability to go to a food bank after going to a food bank once, because you only can go there once a month or once a week. So there are significant challenges. These people care for the people they serve. It's having an emotional impact on our frontline servers. They're watching here tonight. They want us to challenge the province in the context of this debacle and the spin. I mean, the fact that they're saying it's just a glitch is spin. Let's be clear. It's spin. It's much larger than a minor screw up in the software. And the amount of time that staff have to work on this software in inputting is taking away from the frontline services of dealing with customer service. And that's what they want to do. That's what they're missing in this process. So this is a time-sensitive motion to pound the message, ask the media, and certainly thank those frontline workers. Thank them for an understanding that it's a hopeless situation currently, but I know they're going to keep their pens to paper. They are courageous individuals. They're committed to providing a service, and they will continue providing the services regardless of this debacle. But it's incumbent upon us to send a very strong and powerful message to the province of Ontario. This is not good enough. So at this point, Mr. Chair, I would ask my colleagues to unanimously support this particular motion, and I would ask Councillor Green to also provide some comments in regards to our experience this morning.
Yep, I have him on the list, and I have a speakers list currently of Councillors Jackson, Marula, Duval, Ferguson, and Green. Councillor Jackson, you're next.
Well, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that was one of the finest, most eloquent speeches I've ever heard Councillor Whitehead give. I'm not even going to try to top that whatsoever, other than just to concur with his sentiments. I appreciate what him and Councillor Green have brought to the table here this evening. I want to acknowledge the presence of President Sandra Walker, Vice President Jay Hunter of QP Local 5167, members of their executive, some of the frontline workers that are here behind us tonight in the gallery. And I just want to say that our workers, public servants, all of us, both from the political level and from the bureaucratic, administrative, frontline workers level. We all, from time to time, hear the angst of taxpayers in the community, sometimes deservedly so, and many times undeservingly so, especially I'll speak for staff and employees and management. Overwhelmingly, our 7,000 plus employees are doing their very, very best to provide the best possible service to the citizens of our community that pay our wages and our benefits, which we're very honored and grateful for. And I know I have visited in the past the Ontario Works offices in the past term of council. I've done my tour and orientation at the various locations and offices across the city. And I can tell you the hard work our frontline people do. And in this particular area of Ontario Works, the compassion that they show for those recipients that for most, it is a hardship time in their lives. They wish that things were better in their lives, that they didn't have to even rely upon social assistance. But from time to time, we all go through ebbs and flows in our lives. And what is our society if we can't be there for those that are most vulnerable and are in the greatest need, and especially at this most special time of the year for families and loved ones at Christmas. So, Mr. Deputy Mayor, my comments are simply to President Sandra Walker in the gallery and her entire executive, to her frontline workers of QP Local 5167. Keep up the excellent work, and our council hopefully will stand with them tonight. Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Marula.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I think enough has been said on this particular issue from my perspective. I will defer to Councillor Green, who is involved.
Okay, I do have Councillor Duval and Ferguson on the list. If both of those speakers are amenable to Councillor Green going next.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Through you and to the members of council, I just wanted to expand on the human cost that this is having, indeed, for the people in Ward 3. And having heard clearly today from the front lines, in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm actually in the front lines with them. Because 80% of my caseload has been on this particular topic, and make no mistakes about it, this is not a glitch. This is a failure in a system, and at a time of the year when people are most vulnerable. And so I just wanted to support the motion in a way that we send a clear message that something needs to be done about this, that communications need to come forward, and contingency plans need to be put in place to be able to make sure that these families do not fall through the cracks. And so, you know, it's such a privilege today to go through all the different facilities and hear from the workers, but also it shouldn't be missed that on the other side of that table are the people who are having to make choices between food and rent and between Pampers and formula. And these are calls that I'm taking every single day. And so I'm in a lot of ways feeling like I'm on the front lines with them. And so I hope that the province is going to be able to come up with a solution very quickly.
Thanks, Councillor Green. Councillor Duval, you're next.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And I just want to say thanks to Councillor Green and Councillor Whitehead for bringing this forward. I, too, was working on something earlier, not knowing that they had gone today and had already drafted something up. But this is, as we talked in community services about this, this system has become a nightmare since its implementation. And they knew it was not ready, but they proceeded to go forward with it anyways, not recognizing the disaster that they've done, not only to the community and the people who are depending on these funds, but to what they've done to the frontline workers, the management, and general managers. But the frontline workers, I must say, when they have broken down with all the experience that they have, knowing that this is such a complicated process that they have to follow, and it doesn't make any logical sense at all, taking their advice and giving it back, but they have to face the angry crowds out there. They're the ones that are trying to give the proper service, the understanding to the people. And what happens is they get the angry angst from the people, and why the person that implemented it and said it was such a great process to have is sitting somewhere down there in Toronto calling it a glitch, and it'll be over with. It is so shameful. It it is beyond recognition, but what I'm trying to say is thank you first to those frontline workers and to the management staff that is going to dealing with this. I know they're under tremendous pressure, and I thank them. But if we keep allowing this to happen, or the government keeps allowing this to happen, if we have the stressed out workers, who's going to be servicing those type of people? Our workers are only human, and the province has got to recognize that. But on the motion itself, I would just like to make a friendly amendment, if it's okay, and I would like to add that the workers be notified at their workstations of the process, what we've done tonight with this resolution, and a letter from the mayor outlining that we thank them and we understand them and we support them, and we're going forward and asking that this be immediately system be withdrawn. So if I could take that as a friendly amendment.
See that as a friendly amendment, so
Okay.
I'll...
And I thank you, and I thank all the workers.
We'll move that right now. Moved by Duval and seconded by Whitehead, that the motion and a message be communicated to our internal employees. Along these lines, clerks will certainly add the amendment at the appropriate time. All those in favor of the friendly amendment? Carries. Thank you. Councillor Ferguson, you're my last speaker at this point.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think we've all heard about this problem with this software and been following it mostly in the media, but a number of us aren't on emergency community services, and we never had the opportunity to listen to Jack's presentation. So through you, if I can, to Jack, you've heard the comments of the members of the committee who were at your presentation. First of all, is there anything more you'd like to add? And secondly, do you support the resolution to pull the plug on the new system and go back to the legacy system?
Through the chair, I definitely support the motion. And personally, I mean, I've worked for the city for 40 years. I've never come across a disaster like this. This is just terrible. What our staff are going through, what our residents are going through. So anything that we can do to get back to the old system, let's do it.
Okay, then a follow-up question if I can, Mr. Chairman. Jack, it was mentioned that a member of our senior staff spoke to the deputy minister. Was that you?
Through the chair, no, that was Joanne.
Okay. And since I'm sure she briefed you on that conversation, what's the reason they get for not wanting to go back to the legacy system?
I don't, excuse me, through the chair, I don't believe there was a rationale provided for that. I could see if I can get the letter and circulate it to council.
No, Mr. Chair, I've heard enough. I support the resolution. Thank you.
We have no further speakers at this point in time. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion as amended, all those in favor? Standing recorded vote. Okay, all those in favor, please rise. Show that it is unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Whitehead, may I have a motion to approve the Emergency Community Services Report 14007 as presented?
Certainly can, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Scott Duval, that the 7th report of the Emergency and Community Services Committee be adopted and information section received.
All in favor? Carries. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, the chair is back to you.
Thank you. Once again, Councillor Whitehead, may I have a motion to rise and report?
Certainly can, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Duval, that the Committee of the Whole rise and report.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. On motions, I have a number of motions here. We're going to do it one at a time. On 7-1, Councillor Ferguson, will you put your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brenda Johnson, regarding Corporal Nathan Cirillo Leash Free Park. And whereas Hamilton resident Corporal Nathan Cirillo, reservist with the Argyll and Southern Highlanders, was standing guard at the Ottawa's National War Museum, the tomb of the unknown soldier, when he was fatally shot on October 22nd, 2014. And whereas Corporal Nathan Cirillo was a passionate lover of dogs and animals who has frequently rescued abandoned dogs and given them love and a good home. And there is a website on my resolution to CBC where you can go and look at that. And whereas Corporal Nathan Cirillo and his much-loved dogs attended regularly and was known to many at the Leash Free Park in the Meadowlands of Ancaster, and whereas the unnamed Leash Free Park in Meadowlands that is approximately 1,400 members and is in need of an official name, therefore be it resolved that staff be directed to prepare a report respecting the name of the unleashed Leash Free Park at Meadowlands and the Corporal Nathan Cirillo Leash Free Park in honor of the late Corporal Cirillo, and report to the facility naming subcommittee. And Mr. Mayor, first of all, I know there's other things that are being planned, which is great. And that's why I'm simply referring this to the naming subcommittee, and because this has been our process in the past. So if there's other suggestions, they will also go to the naming subcommittee and let them go through them and bring a recommendation back. This is something that I received a number of emails from my constituents who regularly met Nathan at the park and found him a real dog lover and thought it would be a great idea to name this. I have, through the Argyles, I don't know the family, but they spoke to the mother, and she was supportive of the idea. And also, I got a very nice email from his girlfriend. And I'll paraphrase what's in it, unless you want me to read the whole thing out. It's 3 paragraphs, but very appreciative that we're giving this some thought. Her and Nathan went there constantly with their dogs. Knew a number of people come out there regularly and would be honored to have this park named after him. So once again, it's just one idea I'm throwing out there. I don't want it to get lost. It'll get on an outstanding business list of the naming subcommittee, along with anything else that anybody else wants to propose. Let them work that through and come back to us with a recommendation. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Marula.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate the suggestion. We've come a long way in the city when we have an Ancaster councillor putting an East Ender on the pedestal, and I appreciate the sentiment. He is definitely a hero, and I know the kids, particularly his child who lives in Ward 4 East Hamilton, would definitely be appreciative of this mention. Having said that, to respect the process that we worked through with the Argyles and Ron Foxcroft, including the family, we've had hundreds of requests. This particular request is already on the list for consideration. It was a Facebook group that contacted me probably around the same time they perhaps contacted Councillor Ferguson, and I communicated with them immediately on Facebook, indicating that this type of request will be going to the family through the Argyles, and then they would be formally submitting it to you, Mr. Mayor, then in turn be submitting it to the actual committee itself. So if I can, with all due respect, with the endorsement of the family and the Argyles, including Mr. Foxcroft, who has endorsed the process that we've established, that this be referred to the family and the Argyles to be submitted as a package to the naming committee, which would be included, which is already included, but I have no problem endorsing that here today.
Thank you very much. I'll get wise to that. Thank you, Councillor. I'll refer to clerks in a minute in terms of the appropriate of that motion. I'll come back to you. Councillor Partridge.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And along the same lines, I was just wanting to ensure that whatever process we agree to, that the family is consulted, whether it's through the city or through the Argyles. I hear that we have an email, and that's fine, but I would like to ensure that the family has approved it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So an amendment?
Just to
refer this entire motion to the...
To refer to the Argyles,
yes,
as well as the family, so that they can assess all of the requests accordingly to be submitted into you, Mr. Mayor, and then ultimately to the naming committee.
Okay, that's a referral motion. Any comments on that? Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. I just don't want it to get lost. If it could show up on an outstanding business list, though, subcommittee, that would be helpful too. But I have no problem with that particular motion. It was Mr. Foxcroft that spoke to the mother and said that she was very pleased with this suggestion. And I did get the email, and once again, I'll read it out if you like, from the girlfriend of Nathan. I won't do it at this time because it'll take a little bit of time, but I have no issue with it going through that process as long as it doesn't get lost somewhere.
I will ensure that that doesn't happen, and I think it's an appropriate motion. So it's moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried. Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you. Item 7.2, Councillor Farr, present your motion, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is a request to extend the end date of our Hamilton Heritage Property Grant Program and Gore Building Improvement Grant Program. The current end date is 2014. This would extend it to the end of 2015. I can read this wordy motion in full if you like. That's the synopsis. Maybe they're just through you to our General Manager of Planning to confirm that synopsis, that what this is for our colleagues.
Mr. Thorne.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. This is a motion to extend the period by which those grants would be available to this particular property to the end of December 2015. Currently, they would expire on December 31st of this year.
And again, as it relates to, not again, for the first time, 18, 20, 22, 24, and 28 King Street East, the Gore Buildings. And I have a seconder in Ward 1's Aidan Johnson.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jackson on that one?
So, Mr. Mayor, I'm supportive of what Councillor Farr, and boy, he's tried a repeated number of attempts here to make things as positive, satisfying all stakeholders on this Heritage Property Grant Program and on the Gore Building Improvement Grant Program for 18 to 28 King Street East. Let's call it, if you will, the Blanchard buildings and the investment by Mr. Blanchard and his business partners. Can I just ask through you to General Manager Thorne, I'm supportive of the extended date, but every time I hear about further enticements to try to get the owners to the table to try to bite and to possibly buy in, all I'm hearing through the community and or through media sources, and I haven't spoken to any of the owners directly, so I'll say that right up front, but all I hear is not necessarily supportive and or favorable comments back. So I guess I'm just wondering, how long are we going to continue to try the enticement program, the enticement incentives, before we finally realize that the owner has basically said no amount of money will allow me or will cause me to do what some of the heritage folks in town, and with best efforts from Councillor Farr's office, want to do as well to try to satisfy all parties. So to General Manager Thorne, maybe for a comment. Mr. Mayor, through you on process, please.
Mr. Thorne.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. To be clear, there's not a further enticement being put forward in this motion. These are funds that were already identified under the previous motion that would be available to these properties. And really, the intent of this motion is just to keep that option on the table, which otherwise could not remain on the table, particularly for the Gore Improvement Program, which would expire at the end of the year. So there's not further funds being promised here. It is just making sure that remains on the table for the negotiations going forward. This matter is scheduled for a pre-hearing conference before the Conservation Review Board in March. And the hope is that at that point a negotiated settlement could be achieved, and that we want to make sure that this opportunity for these incentive programs is still on the table during those negotiations. I'm satisfied with that answer, and I'll be supportive of this tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, General Manager Thorne.
So it's an extension. It's nothing new. It's just an extension of what was already there. Councillor Collins.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I understand the conservation review process, but I'm curious to know, we have property standards violations on the books for these buildings or not? Do we have outstanding orders?
Mr. Thorne?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm aware of one from early in 2014 property standard violation around being open for trespass. That one was addressed. The building was added to the vacant building list in July. And as a result of that, we do quarterly property standards inspections once they're on the list. The first of those was done in November. No property standard violations were found, but the property is currently under investigation for not registering under the vacant building bylaw. So that is a matter that is still under investigation.
So even though they're open, thank you for that. Although they're open to the elements, they're currently in compliance with the property standards bylaw.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, during the November inspection, there were no property standards violations visible from this was an exterior inspection from the exterior. So we will be continuing to look at it quarterly. And given some of the concerns that have been raised, we have been looking at increasing that to monthly inspections, doing some proactive enforcement to visit the properties monthly to make sure there aren't any violations.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Farr, that was the sign for no mas? Okay, great. So on the motion then, on 7-2, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Any opposed? Hearing none. Item 7-3, Councillor Farr, another motion.
Mr. Mayor, if Jason once again can confirm as General Manager of Planning and Economic Development that this basically very wordy motion extends the availability of the Gore Building Improvement Grant Program for 18 through 28 King due to the significant take-up. That program is quite depleted at this point, so we want to at least keep those funds available as well. All of which total the $1.1 million, and to the previous speaker's point, I have no intention of trying to up the ante down the line. I think the last term of council, was very, very generous. We went, especially in the area of going from deed to property address, taking potential incentives to a whole new level for this city, and as it related to this very important parcel of properties, 250K to 1.1. So that's where we're at right now. That's a pretty big chunk of change to help out in terms of the restoration and preservation, at the very least, of these facades. So if I can just confirm through you, this extends to the availability of the Building Improvement Grant Program, Jay?
Yes, through Mr. Mayor, that is correct. The intent of this motion is to extend the expiry date for that program, the Gore Building Improvement Grant Program, from December 2014 to December 2015.
Okay, Councillor? Good. Okay, any other comments? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 7.4. Councillor Collins, will you present your motion, please?
I will, Mr. Mayor. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Marula that the terms of reference for the Grant Subcommittee be amended to reflect an increase in the member composition from 6 to 7 members of Council, and Part B, that Councillor Tom Jackson be appointed to the Grant Subcommittee for the 2014-2018 term of Council.
Standing recorded vote on that as well? Yeah, do you want to refer this to the end of the meeting? You want to think and contemplate a little? I see you're not. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you. Item 7.5, Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this is a housekeeping resolution. I was Vice Chair of Grants, so they've asked me to bring that since the Chair didn't return this term. So it's a simple change going from $8,200 to $13,000 for the Christmas decorations, so that each PI can get $1,000 for refreshing Christmas decorations. That's the amendment.
Who's going to argue with Christmas? Any comments on that? Hearing not, seconder, Councillor Pearson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 7.6, Councillor Collins.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and it's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Whitehead. I believe everyone has that in front of them. Part C was amended, I think, as late as today, and that reflects the Hamilton Police Services involvement in the suspension of the enforcement for King Street transit-only lanes. And I would only add to what we have in front of us that I believe Part B should say that the traffic operations staff be directed to bag all current regulatory signage rather than remove. So if I could put that as amended in front of you, and if I could speak to that item.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Seconded by, sorry?
Councillor Whitehead.
Whitehead, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And I want to state up front, I know we've certainly had a lot of discussions publicly and privately about the bus lane issue, that I was one of those in 2013 who opposed the project, along with former Councillor Clark, Councillors Johnson, Ferguson, and I believe Pasuda was opposed to that as well. And through the election, as most of us had, knocking on many doors, we certainly get the pulse and the feel of the issues that are important to our residents. And the bus lane was one of those that struck a chord with many. And I had the opportunity to certainly to remind my residents that I wasn't one of those who supported it. But I also had the opportunity to review the tapes, the archive tapes that we have, because it was a 2013 decision, and I was being asked by my residents as to why it was supported by council. And so, to refresh my own memory, knowing that I was knocking on hundreds of doors through the campaign, I went back and looked at the debate that took place not just at Public Works. If you recall, the issue failed at Public Works. It was reintroduced at our council meeting and subsequently passed at that point in time. And so we know that the bus lane pilot was included as one of the hundreds of projects that are part of our Rapid Ready report. We know that the bus lane project is 2 kilometers of a 14-kilometer route. And we also know that the goal of the bus lane, or bus lanes in general, is to assist transit riders in reaching their destination faster than a regular conventional transit system that we have across the city. And so with that in mind, I want to remind Council, though, what the goals and objectives were. And I've listened with great interest over the last number of weeks and over the last month in terms of what the bus lane debate is all about. And I've heard, why can't we wait for the report to come forward? And, there's great merit, I've heard from some, in terms of waiting for the report and waiting for the statistics to come forward. And I want to remind Council, and I think it's very important for those who weren't here to review the tapes and the committee meetings, because the we received some very, very informative information from our staff in terms of why we're doing this. And it wasn't about the timelines associated with the transit route between where it is today in the International Village and where it gets to just before Dundurn. The staff emphasized during that debate several times that we were dealing with 2 kilometers out of 14. And they went on to say, and I'm going to quote here, and I have a couple of notes that I'm going to use. I usually don't reference them, but I think it's important to put it into context in terms of the information that was provided. And this was a quote from our staff person at the time. "We won't see any appreciable improvement in running time because of the length of the pilot segment. Productivity doesn't come until we get up to a length like 14 kilometers, and the objective of the first segment is not to improve productivity, it's to gain support and momentum to get the full 14 kilometers. The productivity will come with a full system implementation." I think that's very important because I've heard a lot of comments over the last several weeks that talked about, well, it's going to get people quicker from point A to point B, and that's why we should be moving ahead with the bus lane. But it's important to note that that's not why we implemented it. It was not about productivity, it was about support and momentum for a transit-only lane. And we know, as was mentioned publicly at that time and today, that it's a precursor for the LRT or a BRT system. Councillor Ferguson asked a great question, and he received a very interesting response, and this was at the committee meeting. And his question was, if Council doesn't have the will to implement a dedicated transit lane from the Mac to Eastgate route, we probably shouldn't support the pilot. That was his question to our Director of Transit. And the answer that Mr. Hull gave at the time was sort of a non-answer. It wasn't a direct answer. Mr. Hull mentioned that it was a test of readiness. And I'll put that into context. He questioned actually rhetorically back to Councillor Ferguson, are motorists ready for a dedicated transit lane? Are businesses ready for a dedicated transit lane? Is Council ready for a dedicated transit lane? And so, again, the footnote to those comments later in response to Councillor Ferguson's question was, it's about building momentum to expand along the whole route if successful. And after all, whether it's LRT, BRT, or BRT Light, was the response to Councillor Ferguson, all rapid transit options need dedicated transit lanes. Which leads us to the third issue that we were dealing with. So again, just to reiterate, it's not about productivity, but support momentum. This isn't about getting people from point A to P. It's about A to B. It's about readiness. Is the community ready for an LRT or BRT or another form of rapid transit? And then the debate shifted at Council, and the bus pilot project was referenced as about, quote, and this is from our staff again, and certainly I encourage everyone to re-listen to the debates at Committee and Council. This was about testing the waters on moving forward with a full rapid transit system. And I think you yourself, Mr. Mayor, said last week in a news report that this was essentially a precursor and it was almost a litmus test of the community's support in some ways over LRT. It was also mentioned by our staff that it's about improving the image of transit and working towards rapid transit. And I think those are fair statements. If you read the report, you certainly understand right away that this is directly linked to LRT. But you also understand that this was a test pilot to understand the community's reaction to the changes that we were going to make in the heart of our central business district. Essentially, as I mentioned, the project was a precursor to LRT and is a test for LRT. And for me, when I had the opportunity through the election process, and certainly over the last year plus, day one, I sent messages out on social media, trying to attempt to access City Hall. It's a regular route for me to travel through the core, and I noted immediately the impacts that many motorists were experiencing as a result of the implementation of the bus lane. And for me, the resonating themes through the debates were about not productivity, but support and momentum, test of readiness, preparing for LRT, and I gauged my support over the last number of months with the hypothetical questions that were posed to Councillor Ferguson. And I asked myself those questions. Is the community ready for a dedicated transit lane? And I think from the reports that we've received from the media and the reaction, and I'm not certain, but I would almost bet that the reactions that many of you, and I think you admitted to, Mr. Mayor, the reactions that you received at the door, we all campaigned. We all went door to door. We all interacted with our residents over the last number of months. And I think we all heard a consistent message that the bus lane, in addition to some other initiatives like the bike lanes and LRT and BRT, people did not receive those initiatives warmly. They did not welcome them with open arms. And I asked myself the rhetorical question again that was posed to Councillor Ferguson. Do the businesses support this project? And I think, just based on media reports, I don't represent the area, but having followed this quite closely through social media and certainly through the mainstream media, I would suggest that the businesses do not, by and large, support the changes that were made. Yourself, does council, by and large, support the rapid transit initiative, and by extension, a dedicated bus lane? And I read with great interest through the election campaign the responses that all of my colleagues provided to the Hamilton Spectator in terms of light rail transit. And I can certainly easily do the math with those who were elected, and I come to the conclusion that 8 people on this council are not supported to the light rail transit initiative, 6 are in favor, and 2 are undecided. So if, hypothetically, there was a motion put today to this council to suggest that we move forward or show support again for the LRT initiative, I'm quite confident, if those positions haven't changed in the last 2 months, that there would not be sufficient support for the LRT initiative. So I'm certainly not here tonight to test the waters on that. But I think it's an important footnote in this debate. If this bus lane was about getting us to LRT or BRT, and we know that this council is not supportive, we know the congestion, artificial congestion that it's created. We know that businesses have publicly stated that they closed their doors as a result of what's occurred in the core and the changes that were made. And you can question the motives or the political motives maybe of those who've made those statements, but it's a fact. There are people who have closed their doors and they've moved elsewhere, and they've hung their hat on the fact that it's the bus lane that's contributed, at least in whole or in part, to their closing their doors. My constituents didn't mince words during the election campaign. Their comments mirrored in many respects those used by business owners in the core. Devastating, incredible, confusing, frustrating. Those are the words that I heard at the door. Those are the words that I've heard from the start of the bus rapid transit lane to today. Obviously, as this has been in the media over the last number of weeks, we continue to receive feedback, both positive and negative, depending on what side of the equation you're on. By extension, most of my constituents and certainly the businesses have drawn the same conclusion that Councillor Farr summed it up, I think, best in September when he said, I would not define this project as a success. And I think that it certainly sums it up quite well in terms of where most people are at, whether you live or own a business in the downtown, or whether you're someone who, like myself, works downtown and has to access their place of work, whether you're someone who shops regularly downtown and is trying to support a business, or whether you're someone who's just casually coming to the core and you may be visiting for a special event at Theatre Aquarius, Hamilton Place, and so on. I think the reaction has been quite common, and the same adjectives have been used both politically and in the community to describe the impact the bus lane has had. And so at the end of this whole process, I asked myself the question, are we ready to expand the bus lane to other areas? Because it's mentioned several times through the report and certainly through the presentations and the responses that were provided by staff through both the committee meeting and council. And I have to say that as someone who represents a very large portion of the route in the Eastgate area, I can definitively say with confidence that my businesses are not supportive of losing a lane, and in fact it would be 2. The route would leave Eastgate and certainly come back in an easterly direction. Is there momentum to keep the bus lane initiative going on a go-forward basis? Again, to answer staff's rhetorical question from 2013, I don't believe that there is. Is there support from downtown businesses, motorists, and others who have been a part of this debate? Again, I don't think that there is. Which brings us to the LRT question. And again, I'm not going to go through the math, but again, if this is all predicated on the fact that it's important to test the waters with a transit-only lane for the eventual implementation of LRT, we now have a council that is not supportive of it. And so I feel like, in many respects, that we're wasting valuable time and energy in debating something that, in all likelihood, will not be supported later this term. Like many others, Mr. Mayor, am not confident, and certainly in light of the recent provincial announcement about their budget situation and the monies that will flow through to municipalities, I'm not confident that any more confident today than I was last term that they're going to flow through 100% capital dollars for any kind of rapid transit system. And so for those reasons, Mr. Mayor, I decided at Public Works, certainly based on all of that information, to suggest that we give business owners a break. Again, I've had public and private conversations with many, and I'm not certain that tonight my motion is going to fly, but I think in light of all of the information that we have in front of us, I think in good conscience it's the only course of direction that I could recommend at this point in time. And I understand that my colleagues by majority voted for this in 2013, and so again, I can understand the desire to take it right to the end. I expected and anticipated, in fact, that we would have a report waiting for us. If you look at the appendix in the report, the original report that was put to committee, it said that a report would be back to council in the fall of 2014. We're certainly beyond that point now. I'm not faulting anyone for that, but certainly in light of the controversy, it would have been nice to have it sooner rather than later. And finally, my final comment would be, I can't understand, in terms of waiting for the report, I can't understand what information could be provided to me that would convince me that the chaos, congestion, and all the other problems that were caused as a result of implementing the BRT would justify its continued operation for another day, week, month, 2 months, or even beyond. I don't know what staff could present next month that would possibly convince me that everything that's happened over the last year has been worth it. Certainly hasn't been worth the $300,000, and I know that's where the debate started, and Councillor Ferguson was certainly trumpeting that issue at that point in time. But I think we're beyond cost now. This is about how the downtown functions. It's about people getting to work. It's about inconveniences, and it's about jobs and people actually trying to make a living in the core. So those are my comments, and I certainly am not going to take it personal if people don't support it here tonight. Those are my personal feelings, and I did commit to people when I went door to door that at our first council meeting I would certainly raise it, and I would try to bring this issue to a head by putting an immediate halt to the operation of the bus lane. So I'm doing that tonight, and it's seconded by Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, and certainly well presented. So thank you, Councillor. Well done. I have Councillor Marula, Whitehead, Farr, Ferguson, Partridge, and myself. Anyone else on? Did I miss someone? Councillor Green. Councillor Marula.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I want to thank Councillor Collins for bringing forward his arguments, and I think we all understand that this particular issue is one that is very divisive. I think we all understand that we all received complaints as well, and myself included, but I think it's important that when we start something that we finish it firstly, and it's presently not finished. The pilot project is. Secondly, when you look at why we even started this process, it's important to recognize that, as Councillor Collins alluded to, this has nothing to do really with public transit, and has nothing to do about moving from point A to point B faster. It has everything to do with assessment, growth, and economic development. And that's really the crux of the issue. And I understand that this is a big issue because it's a big ticket item, and it should be a big issue that we debate over a lengthy period of time. Not too dissimilar to the debate we had with the expressway. And I can recall how divisive that particular debate was. And at that time, I believed strongly that that road would be a catalyst to economic development. And I supported it strongly as a result. Not everybody did. And I know that I received the wrath of many as a result. Still have the scars to prove it. But having said that, with time, we were proven to be correct, that it has been a catalyst to a great deal of what we're receiving in that renaissance today. I personally believe that in researching the LRT and researching what it has done to other jurisdictions, that it will create an environment of assessment growth and tax revenue and complete streets. And basically, it would be irresponsible of me not to look at the fact that in some jurisdictions, property values have increased 2, 3, 4, 500%. Again, not too dissimilar to what we experienced from the expressway being built. And we know what's happening with the real estate market in Hamilton. There is a direct correlation to that, as there will be to the LRT if we were to pursue it. And I also recognize that if the province, who's waiting right now and has delayed their response and answering by design, and I really believe it's by design, because they want us to implode. And that's exactly what we're doing. We are blinking. We're sending a signal to the province that we really don't know what we want, that we are divided. And they're going to turn around and say to us, you're going to lose that $800 million that we promised because you guys don't know what you want. And I waited and we waited, and I even prior to the election tried to put a moratorium on this issue, knowing very well what the province's intent was. And their intent was to set us up to fail so they can turn to us and say, you guys killed it and not us. And we're doing it. We're playing right into what exactly they designed us to do, making us look foolhardy. So I understand public pressure. I understand phone calls and people yelling and screaming and calling me names. But I also understand that's part of the political process. And I respond accordingly. But they don't call me names, I feel like I'm not doing my job. So in this particular case, I honestly believe not only do I don't think we should be supporting the non-enforcement component, but I also believe that we should not even amend this at all and finish what we started, research the data, look at this from a long-term perspective, not just in front of our toes, and ensure that we're not subjecting our residents to the same nonsense that future or past councils did surrounding subways. You know how many people say to me, why does Hamilton not have a subway? You know why? Because Mr. Cook, who actually lives in Ward 4 East Hamilton, who was part of the HSR, Terry Cook's grandfather, put together a plan to implement a subway system. And you know what happened? Council threw it to the curb. And we are repeating the same mistake today. Not because of the data. Not because of the data, but because of convenience. So I implore everyone to look to the future, not to the past, because the past has created an environment that is not competitive with some of the most successful municipalities in the world. And I want us to be part of that movement, part of that future, and let's not stop the renaissance, because its momentum has started. It's not quite in full swing, but we're headed that way. And I truly believe, at the bottom of my heart, I really believe that this, based on the data that has been provided and the research that I have looked at, will be a catalyst to those property values escalating 3, 4, 500% in the future. And I can't look at my constituents in the eyes and say, I threw that to the curb because you called me and said you didn't like it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have a growing speakers list, and I was hopeful that we not get into an LRT debate, but the enforcement debate, which is really what's being asked for. And I respect all the comments, but I think maybe if we could narrow it to the issue at hand, which is the enforcement issue that's being recommended here, I think that would be helpful. And we are going to have a continuing debate on this issue, I'm sure. Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to table this motion I believe we're going to have a fulsome discussion, debate when the report is completed. I just don't think that just dealing with this narrow issue alone does it justice. I support second the motion, so at least we can put it out there. But I want to table it. So at this point, that's my motion.
Right, you can't speak to it. So seconder for that?
Councillor Duval.
Councillor Duval, okay. So a tabling motion has been put. Councillor Ferguson, yes?
Just to the tabling motion, I think that, and Councillor Collins actually touched on this, I've checked in my capacity as a member and chairman of the Hamilton Police Services, and I'm advised that nobody, including council, can instruct the police not to enforce. What you have to do, the recommendation I received was you pass a motion to rescind the bylaw. And so, because you rescind the bylaw, bag the signs, and then they won't enforce. There's no bylaw in existence. So if we're going to table it, I'd like to place that amendment just to make sure we know going forward that those are the words we use, rather than not enforce, rescind the bylaw.
Tabling has a net effect of not acting on it at all.
It does.
Okay.
But it's an issue, it's a legal issue that is going to have to be dealt with at some time.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor, tabling to
The report.
Yeah, to what?
To the receipt of the report of the bus lanes on January 7th, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, that debatable issue?
Tabling motion is debatable.
Thank you. On the tabling motion then, Councillor Collins.
I would prefer, instead of tabling, and I know Councillor Whitehead's my seconder, I prefer that it actually be defeated if that's the case. Tested, not tabled, and defeated if that's the will of.
Well, we have a tabling motion on the floor right now, so we will.
And I just put that out there as my own personal preference, as the mover of the motion.
I hear you. I got you. So, Councillor, if you could hold that motion for one moment, and I will ask Councillor Farr to speak on it.
And on the tabling motion that's currently on the floor, I heard a different date than what I was expecting. My understanding is the report on the bus lane is due for public look at, I think, the January the 5th. And then it's January 15th GIC that it would be. I just want to get clear on the dates, Mr. Mayor.
Madam Clerk?
The report is expected to the January 14th GIC. It would be available to the public January 7th.
7th, yeah. Okay, thank you. So on the tabling motion, I'll test the will of council on that. All in favor?
Carried.
Carried. Any opposed? Councillors Jackson, Collins, and Ferguson opposed. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And thank you for the wholesome and fulsome discussion. I think it was very positive. Thank you. Councillor Vanderbeek on a motion 7-7.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Aidan Johnson. Whereas a water feature has been installed on Coots Drive between Thorpe Street and Court Street in Dundas at an approximate cost of $22,000, with the majority of the funding being provided by the Knowles Bequest Fund. Therefore, be it resolved that, and I would like to make a slight amendment to what you have in front of you, that up to $7,500 from the Dundas Reserve Count number 108031 be provided toward the cost of the water feature that has been installed on Coots Drive between Thorpe Street and Court Street in Dundas.
Okay, thank you. Moved and seconded by Councillor Pizzuta. All in favor? I'm sorry, my apologies. Aidan Johnson, all in favor? Carried, thank you. On item 7-8, Councillor Marula.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Green. Whereas the province of Ontario, under the Ministry of Consumer Services, is responsible for Consumer Protection Act, and whereas the Payday Loans Act 2008 of Ontario regulates and licenses money lending companies, and whereas the practice of exchanging customer gift cards for cash at half the face value appears to be an unethical business practice. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Hamilton requests that the Province of Ontario, through the Ministry of Consumer Services, strengthen the protections afforded by the Payday Loans Act to prevent the unethical practice of exchanging gift cards for cash at less than their face value. And just quickly, we know that that they have stepped back on this particular issue voluntarily, but the legislation still allows in the future for that type of nonsense to be acted upon. Having said that, there seems to be a great deal of support at Queen's Park for this type of initiative, and I believe they are acting accordingly. So, in essence, this becomes an endorsement of the legislation that is being pursued at Queen's Park. Also, in looking at ways of dealing with these types of payday loans type of establishments, they seem to be popping up like mushrooms throughout the city at an alarming rate, and they're predatory in nature, and they're, in essence, trying to focus in on those that can't have a bank account. So obviously, they have these people or holding them hostage financially. There is no planning way of dealing with them. I was looking at perhaps even looking at licensing them, as in the past we discussed about other financial institutions. But what we've found out is that under the Planning Act, it just isn't permitted. So what is permitted is what's being presented here, and that is obviously to lobby the province to act accordingly to ensure that some of their unethical practices are not only being monitored, but that legislation is amended in order to prevent this in the future. And there it is. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
By yourself, seconded by, remind me again, Councillor Green. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Could I ask Councillor Collins to take the chair for a moment, please? And
yes, sir. Go ahead.
Put my motion as well. I'm not going to read the whole thing. The motion alludes to the transit-only lane as well. That project, and it asks for the staff to report back on a transit lane only restriction on weekday mornings and afternoons, to also report back on a modification to allow the use of the transit only lane to other high occupancy vehicles, and to the alternative design to relocate the transit only lane to the second lane from the north curb lane to restore parking back to the north curb lane, from the south curb lane to the north curb lane, while eliminating parking in the south lane in the area of Bay Street. And if I could speak to that, Mr. Chair. Thank you. And not to belabor the point, and I quite understand the angst that Council has gone through on the bus lane issue. I've heard the comments in the community as well, for and against. And I'm not looking to do or undo tonight. I'm just offering some of the comments that I've heard in the broader community in terms of what might make the bus lane more palatable going forward. So I'm not asking for a decision on these issues. I'm asking for staff to report back when they do report back on these issues as to whether or not that is a viable option going forward. And then in early January, we'll all have a go at the whole bus lane issue in terms of what Council wants to do going forward. And so I don't want to turn this into a precursor issue of LRT. I think I'll be bringing forward at the appropriate time, and I did run on this and got significant support on the notion that we need a community effort in terms of understanding what BRT, LRT, and transit means in our community, and to get a sense of what our community wants. And I am hopeful, and I still remain hopeful, that the province is still very much on board on funding something. The question is to what degree and by how much, and what comes first, the citizens' view of what we need, or the province saying here's the amount of money that we're going to offer up as a funding envelope, and we'll continue to work on that. But in the meantime, I think we ought to go to the report. I want to see what the report has to say. You might all have a conclusion at this point, but I don't. And I think it's fair and reasonable that we base that on some evidence that demonstrates what the pluses and minuses have been, and we can all guess what some of them might have been, but I think there also have been some good positives that have come out of this that I think will also be pointed to in the report, I suspect. So not to belabor the issue, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to put these ideas forward and ask staff to report back in January on these issues, and then we'll deal with the entirety of the issue in early January. So I'm asking for your support on that issue. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Farr.
Second by Councillor
Councillor
Farr.
Collins.
I have a speaker's list of Councillors Whitehead, Farr, and Partridge. Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I want to table this motion at this time. I think it's productive to have that discussion again when that report is completed. We don't need to complicate things.
You have a seconder for that? Okay, seconded by Councillor Duval. I have a tabling motion now on the tabling motion. Councillor Farr.
I think this one's a little different. I think the mayor had pointed it out as the mover of the motion that we're really in this motion
just on the direction
requesting that staff also contemplate when they report in that report these various features. So I'm not sure where tabling would be helpful.
Okay, I have no further speakers on the tabling motion. Mayor Eisenberger on the tabling. Yep.
Microphone, please.
They won't be able to report. Oh, sorry. Joey, where are you? I didn't hear you. Well, on the uptake.
On the direction?
The report will not be addressing some of these issues if we don't put them forward on and give them direction to actually bring it back. So if we just table this, then it'll sit there until January the 7th or 8th or 15th.
Not on the merit, on the direction.
That's what I'm talking about, on the direction.
Okay.
And on the direction is that if we direct this not to go to staff to report back on, then we won't get anything back on the report. So I'll oppose the tabling, and hopefully we can get the information back later on.
Further speakers on the tabling. I have Councillors Conley. I thought I saw Councillor Pearson and then someone. Councillor Connolly, go ahead.
I would hope the report, and if it's going to be a complete report, would have these issues on it anyways. I would hope we don't have to make a special motion to make these things available. This report should be a 100% report on the advantages, the disadvantages, the costs, on everything. And if we're going to pick and choose what's going to be on there, it's not a report that I would like to see. So
maybe for clarification, Councillor, I can ask staff on that point whether these items would be normally included in the report.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis?
Through the chair, these items weren't part of the original pilot, so if we're asked to do it, we will comment on what the impact would be, but the pilot didn't include reviewing these items.
Councillor Connolly.
And then it's not, to my opinion, it's not a complete report. A report should indicate all facets of it.
Okay, so
what is good, what is bad. We should be able to look at it and make a decision. We should not have to keep adding. I might have 3 or 4 other items I want to add to it. I don't think that's right. I think we all have items we may want to add to it. Okay. But I don't think it's the right direction to go. A report should be complete. And for that reason, I would vote against it.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Connolly. And I do want to remind speakers, I do have Councillors Pearson and Green on the tabling. And as you know, while the tabling is being entertained, we will not be debating the issue. We will be debating the actions related to the tabling. So if you have questions on the tabling motion or comments to make related to the direction, please make them. Councillor Pearson, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, for the clarification. And my questions were along the same line as former Councillor Connolly, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. Councillor Green, on the direction of the tabling motion.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to the members of council, I'm very interested in hearing a full report that would entertain opportunities outside of the current parameters. So I just wanted to hope that this move forward and see if we can't have a discussion about it.
Okay. Councillor Johnson, on the direction related to the tabling.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I'm curious to hear from staff whether they have any concerns about the particular questions that the mayor is asking. Will that in any way bias their report or interfere with their ability to provide a good, unbiased, evidence-based report? That's a question on my mind.
Mr. Davis?
Through the chair, if we're directed, we will incorporate these into it along with the data and the evidence that we have for the year pilot project.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson and then Councillor Farr.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, to Jerry. We're going into Christmas shutdown. A lot of us, including maybe yourself, are taking vacation. Staff people running vacation. Would you be able to do enough research to be able to respond to these questions? I mean, I don't support extending it, but it'd be nice to see your response to it. Do you have time to put this together?
Mr. Davis.
Through the chair, we will work on it. It won't be a complete study, but we'll give our comments on if these 3 items were to be implemented, how we think it would impact it and what we think it means for the overall transit lane.
So you do have time?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Yes. I have Councillor Partridge first time, and I'm showing a little bit of latitude. We do have new members of council, and so I'm Councillor Partridge, go ahead.
Well, thank you for clarifying that, because
No
you
problem.
clearly said this was about the tabling motion,
Yes.
and so far
I've
none of
reiterated
the
that.
speakers have been speaking to the tabling motion. So with some latitude, could I also carry along that same vein?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. My question is on the report, and through you to Jerry. On the report, the information that would be included would be specific to what?
The chair, what we look at is in the last year, the metrics. So the movement of HSR riders, the movement of traffic over the parameters of the pilot project, as has been indicated, the businesses, what they felt, the community's engagement. So we've done surveys with the BIA, the International Village. We know the counts. We have the timing. We're pulling all that data together. We had a consultant engineer right after the pilot was over, work on it. We're getting that data in. So it will be everything that's taken place, and it'll look at the primarily how did it function in there? Because it includes the parking. It's very comprehensive, the parameters we looked at.
And thank you for that, Jerry. But again, through you, Mr. Chair, it would be specific to the pilot, which was what the original motion that was moved back in 2013 was to report back to GIC in October.
So through the chair, it was a 1-year pilot, October to October. As soon as we were done, we hired a consulting engineer. We said we'd be back in the fall. We're a month late on that. We'll be here. We'll have the report done the first part of January to go to the January 14th GIC.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I certainly do agree that we could wait to get the report back, but the report that's expected to come back needs to be on the pilot, which was the original motion. From my perspective, it would be more prudent, I feel, to wait for that report to come back before we include any additions. I mean, we have to have the facts in front of us to decide how do we move forward. And if it is then, and Mr. Mayor, I absolutely appreciate what you're trying to do here, but I don't feel that this is the time to include these additional requirements for staff. So my preference would be that we wait until the report comes forward before we make any additional changes. And certainly I'm hearing from my residents, who some of them own businesses, a lot of them work downtown. I've not had one positive comment from anyone or email supporting this. But on the other hand, we need to have the facts in front of us. And what I'm hearing from Jerry, through you, is that we will be getting that thorough report, which will touch on all of the issues around that pilot for that 1-year term. That's the motion that we moved. That's what everybody came to agreement on, except for those who were opposed. And I think that's the course that we should stay. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Farr, you're my last speaker on the motion to table the issue until January. Okay, now I'm going to the mover of the tabling. Councillor Whitehead, you had a seconder, sorry, and Councillor Duvall. On the motion to table until the report, I thought I heard you say, is submitted to council. JC? Okay. Madam Clerk, you have questions on that direction?
Sorry, Mr. Yes, I just wanted clarification. Are we tabling it? Tabling is tabling in this committee. If you want it to go to GIC, you refer it to GIC.
It's not a tabling, it's actually a referral you would prefer from a procedural standpoint. Referral to GIC in January. We're clear on that, Madam Clerk? Yep.
If that's what Councillor Whitehead wants to do.
Everyone's in agreement on that direction. All those in favor? All those opposed? Recorded opposed, Mayor Eisenberger, Councillors Johnson, Farr, Green, and Marula. Mr. Mayor, the chair is back to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Whitehead, will you present your motion, please? Seven 10, which is Federation of Canadian Municipalities.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Board of Directors.
Thank you. This is a motion. This is a motion.
Motion. I heard a motion to table. That's
a motion. It's not on the floor yet. The motion to move by myself, second by Councillor Tom Jackson. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities that the Council of City of Hamilton endorse Councillor Duval to stand for election on the FCM's Board of Directors for the remainder of the 2014-2015 term, and that the Council assumes all costs associated with the Councillor Duval's attending FCM's Board of Director meetings.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Carried. Thank you. Notices of motion. Item 8.1, illegal dumping pilot project. Councillor Marula.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it's moved by myself, and it's regarding illegal dumping pilot project. Whereas the City of Hamilton has experienced a shift of illegal dumping across the city from public and private property to that of parklands, and whereas municipal law enforcement established a pilot project in 2012 to enforce this illegal dumping, and whereas enforcement officers have been using video surveillance to identify and charge offenders in council identified hotspots, therefore be it resolved that the City of Hamilton Municipal Law Enforcement Division continue to enforce illegal dumping for the duration of the pilot project and research the feasibility of permanent video surveillance being established in identified hotspots. B, that the use of mobile video surveillance technology be continued to identify offenders and charge. And C, that staff continue to work with other departments to coordinate enforcement efforts.
Okay, thank you. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried. Carried. Thank you. Councillor Pearson. Motion to... Did we do that? Sorry. The notice of motion? Comes back in another time. Yeah, we're not moving it. Sorry. My apologies.
Point of information to the clerks. There was about 6 spare microphones that were left with the system. I think Rose probably knows where they are. These simply pop out, you pop a new one in when they fail like that, and you may want to get Rose to check it out so Councillor Marula, not that I really want to hear him all that bad,
all right, well.
But he doesn't have to move back and forth.
Just wish we knew.
We will get to that certainly for the next meeting. Right, Rose? Okay, thank you. On Canada Coach Lines, a notice of motion. Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to move this up to a motion. So I have, it's been moved by myself, second by Councillor Brenda Johnson, that the rules of order be waived to allow the introduction of a motion respecting Coach Canada Hamilton service. Okay. If I can have that.
Motion to waive the rules. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's been moved by myself, second by Councillor Brenda Johnson. Coach Canada Hamilton service. Whereas Coach Canada has intentions to reduce and subsequently discontinue scheduled intercity bus services between Hamilton and Niagara Falls and reduce scheduled services between Hamilton and Kitchener. And whereas GO Transit is expanding services on the Toronto to Niagara Falls corridor, which includes one East Hamilton stop. And whereas the City of Hamilton believes in the need for increased transit services and supports that in all cases, including but not limited to services provided by HSR, Coach Canada, and GO Transit. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Hamilton, through the City Manager's Office and Public Works Department, continue to meet with Metrolinx, GO Transit, and Ministry of Transportation officials to discuss this service reduction, as well as future private and public sector partnerships opportunities to deliver improved transit between these corridors, and also the impact of any future service changes on businesses and the community, and that staff report back to Public Works Committee on any ongoing or future discussions. And if I could just mention, Mr. Mayor, this came to my attention about a month or so ago, just after the election process, where I've had some residents in my ward who have students that are attending Brock University and Niagara College, and they're being affected because this service is being cancelled in Stony Creek. So they're now scrambling to try and arrange transportation accommodations for their youngsters in order to keep continuing attending at the programs they've registered for and paid for outside of this city. So it affects a lot more than just a few, and we need to be sure these services continue as best as we can.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments on that? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Statement by members. So any Statements or any areas of interest? I'll start over with Councillor Connolly. Anything that you want to make a statement on tonight before we wrap up?
I just want to wish everybody a very blessed and happy Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And I'm looking forward to the next year. I think it's going to be an exciting year for everyone. And let's get to work. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Pearson.
Mr. Mayor, yes, thank you. And I firstly would like to thank, obviously, yourself that came out to, and the councillors, my councillor colleagues that were at the Stony Creek Santa Claus Parade last weekend. It was a great event, super weather, and I'm just thrilled to see the attendees grow every year. And I know that everyone waited patiently for Santa Claus, and they all got their chance to wave and certainly pass on their wishes for what they want for Christmas. And on that note, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to extend my best wishes to everyone, Ward 10 and throughout the whole city, for a very Merry Christmas and certainly a safe, very safe and Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we had a beautiful tree lighting ceremony in Glanbrook, and I just want to thank the Glanbrook Chamber of Commerce, the First Binbrook Scouts, and Light Points Church for making it all happen, and all the volunteers as well. It was just wonderful, and appreciate everybody that came out to that. It was a recorded attendance, so it was amazing, because we also did a free skate just prior to that, and it was just jam-packed. The Erlen Lee is having their caroling, and that's on December the 14th. Sorry, that's on the 19th, 2:30. And I just want to thank those who came out to the skate park meeting. We do have some issues to correct. We will continue forward, going through and keeping everyone in the loop what's going down. The fence is coming down due to the weather, and the kids have finally figured out how to get through the fence anyway, so we're just going to take it down. And also, just to let everyone know that the Binbrook Transit, the Transcab pilot project was not as successful as we thought it would be. We're not getting the riderships at all on it. We also went door to door, and we asked the residents in the Binbrook Village, and it just was not successful. So at the end of January, we're just going to let you know that this will discontinue. We want to give everybody over to the Christmas and a good month to figure out some rides. And I also want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and may 2015 be the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I, too, want to just recognize the tree lighting ceremony that took place on December 4th in Ancaster. And Santa actually arrived by fire truck. I had the opportunity, and thousands of people showed up. The place was packed. I had the opportunity to interview Santa before he went and met all the kids and asked him how he liked that fire truck. And he says he might replace his sleigh with it, because the toys it could carry and nice bright red. And he was actually escorted in down the road by the Hamilton Police Services Studebaker. So it was quite a sight to behold. But I want to pay particular thanks to the Heritage Days Committee and the particular Tree Lighting Committee for overseeing it, but most importantly to our public works staff. Doug Jones, the lead hand, and his guys, they're proud as punch of what they do up there, and they put an exceptional effort into it. And I encourage all of you, take a drive down through Wilson Street in Ancaster. You'll feel proud as a Hamiltonian to see the great job that these public works staff did. So congratulations. And wish everybody Merry Christmas and a happy, safe, and healthy New Year. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Vanderbeek.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I too want to talk about our tree lighting. This was the 100th anniversary of the tree lighting in Dundas, which is the oldest tree lighting in Canada. And the tree lighting ceremony in Dundas is a partnership between the Dundas Division of the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, the Dundas Downtown BIA, and the City of Hamilton. And I would like to thank especially the Parks staff of Public Works in Dundas, who did a fabulous job as usual, not once but twice. Although it may have been the 100th anniversary, about 3 days later, a 100-kilometer wind came along and ripped the tree down and threw it in the middle of the road. So we had to have a second tree, and they had to decorate it all over again. And they just did an outstanding job, and they were extremely patient and pleasant about the whole thing. So thank you to all of them. And shopping in Dundas, Dickens of a Christmas runs until Christmas, and hot cider and horse and buggy rides. So do bring your family out. Also, I want to mention that I sponsor free skating in the Dundas Market Street Arena on Boxing Day. You can watch the sign in the Memorial Square for the times, and come and enjoy the time and bring your family. It's great for the kids. And I think that's all I can think of. So Happy New Year and Merry Christmas, and wish everyone great health in 2015, and looking forward to another great year. Thank you.
Excellent. Likewise, thank you. Councilor Pizzuta.
Thank you, Mayor Eisenberger, and welcome back, sir, to our council table, first
Thank you,
of all. I'd like to say that we had the opportunity on Sunday to Elaine and I to come downtown here to the convention center to work the Good Shepherd dinner. And it's amazing to see how all the volunteers pulled together, and according to the newspaper, was 2,000 some people had attended, the poor and underprivileged, and an amazing event, and it's a good feeling. And Councillor Ferguson was there, and Councillor Aidan Johnson was there, and I don't know if I missed any other councillors, and the police chief and the fire chief and other dignitaries were there, so David Sweet, and so it was a good event. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot to say. I still haven't got my crop harvested yet because of the snow in the northern part of Flamborough continues to snow there even as of today. But I'm going to work on it over the Christmas and hopefully get it in the bin. Other than that, Merry Christmas to everybody, Happy New Year to everybody and their families, and I hope it's a joyous season. Thank you.
Great. Merry Christmas to you. Thank you. Councillor Partridge.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to recognize the Waterdown BIA and the Flamborough Chamber. We had 3 weekends where we had the tree lighting ceremony to begin with. And then we had the Santa Claus Parade, which is a nighttime parade, and we had about 40,000 people attend. It was absolutely incredible. And then the following weekend, we had our Christmas choral and candle walk, which again saw about 250, 300 people carrying candles, singing Christmas carols, walking through the streets of Waterdown. They're annual events, they're well attended, and really do have the true spirit of our community there. Also want to mention that this Saturday, the Waterdown Food Bank at Sobeys will be at Sobeys having a food drive. And again, we expect that to be well attended. And I am also sponsoring free skates on December 27th and December 28th. For the arena locations, please go to my website, Judy Partridge, Judy with an I, partridge.ca, and all the information will be there. And I, too, would like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year, and best wishes from the Partridge family. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Duval.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and appreciate, I don't know what happened to Councillor Whitehead, but I just want to give some recognition to some of the unions that have done great work in the city of Hamilton. Especially this time of year. And Monday, I went to the steelworkers, Hamilton area steelworkers, little social for Christmas, and in attendance was MP Dave Christopherson and Wayne Marsden, MPP Monique Taylor, and Councillor Jackson and myself, where we seen all the great works that some of these local unions have put into our city, and where they actually have charity events and then save the money up at the end of the year to give out to the most vulnerable people and the needy. And some of the stuff was absolutely unbelievable work that they have done. And I know many unions are out there who do the same, but this one I attended and I wanted to show some kind of recognition because one of them happened to be my former local 5328, and my company, Arson & Mattel, not the actual DeFasco part, but the wire division in Hamilton, who has matched some funds to help out with the kids' backpacks for the programs that when it ended, that they took up that little gap. But what we did find out is some of the steelworkers, where they have a humanity fund where they take a couple cents an hour off for every hour they work and put it into a pot of money and distribute it where the human needs have to be met. But this year, it was really amazing. And the Humanity Fund of the Hamilton area steelworkers, they donated $34,415. But on the other things that they made charity to, and something like the Rick Woods Golf Tournament, where we had raised money, helping out the United Way, there was another $20,000 that they actually helped. So it was over $54,000 altogether. And they distributed the money on Monday, and I just want to share with you what they did with it. As the Hamilton Food Shares received $17,450, Neighbor to Neighbor $3,350, St. Matthew's House $4,315 plus toys and food. The Brantford Food Bank $1,500, Simcoe Cupboard $2,000, the Fort Erie Salvation Army $1,000, Wesley Urban Ministries $3,000. Operation Christmas Cheer, $500. Brant Family and Children's Services, $100, and United Way, $1,200. And I just want to say kudos to all of them that were out there all year trying to do this, and that's a big help to our city. We're a lot of people that are in need for it. So kudos and thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
And Merry Christmas to all my residents in Ward 7 in the city of Hamilton. And I hope everybody has not just a great Christmas, but a happy, safe, and prosperous New Year.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. 2 or 3 public service announcements. So for many of my residents and for those motorists that use the Red Hill Valley Parkway that connects up in through the Lincoln Alexander Parkway, former Councillor Clark, Councillor Collins, and myself often heard many complaints if you've traveled that section from Dartnell Road interchange down to Green Hill and back. That's a really dark stretch of roadway, Mr. Mayor, that has no hydro pole, hydro lighting at all along that corridor of the Red Hill Valley Parkway. And I'll tell you, it's dark on any normal evening, and all you need to add is a little bit of rain, a little bit of fog, and it's dangerous. And for whatever reason, lighting was not installed in that stretch from the Green Hill exit ramp up to Dartnell Road. So, but I want to advise, because Councillor Collins and I have continued to pursue this, and I want to thank Superintendent David Ferguson of our traffic department. We just got word that what they're going to do in the next few days, so for any of the motorists there, just to prepare them, they're going to install those raised pavement marker reflectors, Mr. Mayor, along the paved markings of the laneways going northbound and southbound on the Red Hill Valley Parkway. So at least by those raised pavement markers and deflectors, they will provide some illumination there for the lanes along that dark stretch of the Red Hill Valley Parkway. So there may be some slowdown because of the painting that will be going on in the next few days. Just want to give everyone a heads up. Mr. Mayor, one of the fine members of our mountain community, pure volunteer through and through, Kathy Archer, who recently just got back in as a public school trustee in my ward for Ward 6. But over and above that, and congratulations to her, look forward to working with her this term as the public school trustee. However, in between all that time, she has run the Mountain Kids Club, one of the purest form of volunteer organizations you'll find on the mountain for underprivileged families and kids of very limited disposable income. This weekend on Saturday, December 20th, at the Eastmount Community Center, just inside Councillor Duval's ward along Upper Sherman, she'll have her annual turkey Christmas dinner, $5 a person, from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. at the Eastmount Community Center, Saturday, December 20th. Any families, please come in and join and enjoy. And on Sunday, the same Mountain Kids Club by Kathy Archer, they have their annual Christmas party. Only $2 a person because of sponsorships and corporate and individual donations make it possible. The annual Christmas party, Mr. Mayor, this Sunday, December 21st from 3 to 5 p.m. at the same Eastmount Community Center. Congratulations, Kathy. And Mr. Mayor, I want to wish all members of the Jewish community across our city of Hamilton happy Hanukkah at this time, and to all members and constituents and residents of Ward 6 a very Merry Christmas and a prosperous, healthy, and happy 2015. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the first message I want to pass on to all the landlords and utilities, which I didn't mention in the debate, is that, yes, there's a mess up in the system. Checks are not being put out adequately. Please, in the Christmas spirit, don't start evicting and so forth. Provide some patience until we resolve these issues. show some compassion for those individuals that are impacted by the fact, no fault of their own, that the checks aren't arriving at time or going to the wrong locations. So I would certainly want to stress that to all current landlords and utilities within the city. I also want to, Mr. Mayor, this is a special day, really special day. Unfortunately, I'm here at council, but it is my wife's birthday today. And she is out for dinner, and I plan to celebrate her birthday on Friday. She's been wonderful support. Anyone can deal with me and put up with me, and I know my all my councillor colleagues are shaking their head. I think Bernie Morales said it best. She must be a saint, and that she is. I also, Mr. Mayor, we had the grand opening of the multi-use facility on the West Mountain with over 300 plus people there. Huge success. Very welcomed by the broader community. Many opportunities over and above the bocce activity. Our staff are now working on an agreement to look at other type of programs we can run for hopefully with people with disabilities, because that was one of the needs that we identified, and it's an ideal location to strategize around that. It's also great for you can have banquets in there. It's just so versatile, and it's something that was badly needed in the war. In fact, it's an area that now I can have an actual community meeting of 200 and actually have a location that could facilitate it. So it is truly a multi-use facility, and I want to thank Jack Brown and all the recreation staff. And Raum and all those involved in the actual building. They did an incredible job, and again, it was received very well by the community. I also, because obviously it's the Christmas season, and there's a stress on the system, and probably more stress in the amount of people utilizing the food banks as a result again of the glitch, so-called glitch in the technology. Many people are going to be in need of food, so I would ask many of the residents of this community to dig deep. Please, of all times, if you have food to spare, drop it off to Food Share or Neighbor to Neighbor or any of the other organizations to ensure that we deal with those individuals that are marginalized in the community with compassion. And if you have any other volunteer time or any other way to facilitate those in this time, please consider doing so. And I would like to take the opportunity to wish my councillor colleagues, my residents, a very Merry Christmas and a happy, prosperous New Year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Green.
Mr. Mayor, through you, I wanted to extend on this spirit of Christmas joy and report on an event that was in its 25th year this year, and that was Joyce Rattray's annual Christmas party. Joyce Rattray owns a business called Our Place on Beach Road, and for 25 years has been hosting literally thousands of residents and children, and it was an event that I had the privilege to attend. And this year, I think there was at least 150 kids present that all received gifts. It's something that's completely organized by the community, something that Ms. Rattray has been carrying on for 25 years, and so I thought it'd be duly noted. The second bit of Christmas cheer was this week I had the privilege of attending the Cops and Kids program put on by our action team in cooperation with City Kids. And for those of you that have not been to Martin's Bowling Lane off of Sherman, it's like a throwback. So it's a little step back in time, and I had a chance to go there and see the work that our police services is doing proactively to outreach to our youth in the community, which I found very heartening. And the last piece is that I believe on Saturday we will see the grand opening of the very first, or the reopening of the very first Tim Hortons on Ottawa Street, which of course is just yet another example of the wins that we're having on Ottawa Street. And so I encourage those of you who, like myself, might like the occasional apple fritter to come on by and enjoy that opening. And lastly, I'd like to thank all my colleagues, their administrative staff, all of the members of senior management that I've had the opportunity to meet, as well as members of the facility staff here, for such a warm and inviting welcome. Through your assistance and support, I've been able to transition to the best of my ability, and I just wanted to say to everybody that I really appreciate that kind of support and certainly look forward to 2015. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Farr.
Mr. Mayor, did the councillor who owns the gym just say it's okay to eat apple fritters? Because that's what I heard.
He's drumming up business.
Is that what it is?
Eat the fritter, then you work it.
Eat them, then work it out.
Declaration of interest.
First to you, I very much look forward to working with you. We've had a few meetings already. You're a man of compromise quite clearly. We've had a pretty good relationship, I'd say. When I was a media guy and you were a mayor, you were always accessible. And as evidence here tonight, I think you're the right guy at the right time. And I'm not always going to agree, and you will definitely not always agree with me. But so far, it's been a good working relationship, and I look forward to this term of council. Mayor Fred Eisenberger. I also look forward to you continuing your wins over losses on a particular cookie that you play squash with still, obviously, on a regular basis. I'll be brief because it looks like there's a scrum waiting for you in that Calgary Stampeders jersey. Number one, Hamilton Wentworth Outdoor Rink, Pier 8. It's open Monday to Fridays, 5 to 10, Saturday to Sunday, noon to 10. Skates are available for rent at $6. We haven't had the greatest outdoor rink weather at the Waterfront Trust Outdoor Rink, but the crowds have been phenomenal. And as always, we appreciate the public works staff's support and the Zamboni work that we get as well through our contract. Children's rides continue at Gore Park right through till Christmas Eve. We are still looking for some volunteers for our Snow Angels program. Haven't needed many to date just yet, but we will. And so please visit my website, jasonfarr.com, to figure out ways in which you can, in your community, help shovel some seniors' sidewalks. I want to thank the Beasley residents. We went on a little walking tour with some traffic staff the other day along Mary and Catherine, and they had some great ideas, some great comments, and as always, representatives, especially of the Beasley Neighborhood Association, are very well schooled when it comes to safe and accommodating neighborhoods, and they're very inclusive too. Also, thanks, Mr. Mayor, to the staff and students at Queen Victoria School who maybe didn't give me an apple fritter, but they gave me a turkey dinner the other day, and it was packed as always at the annual event. Thanks to all the corporate sponsors that helped them out, including recently our Hamilton Bulldogs for their breakfast program. And finally, thank you to Cable 14. I always forget which camera it is, but Cable 14 is back with us again, bringing you council coverage, and it's great to be back on Cable 14. But as well, for anybody viewing council tonight, make sure, in addition to the Yuletide log that burns all day on the 25th, you also tune into our world-renowned Hamilton Children's Choir. They have coverage of that wonderful Friday night show that they'll be airing throughout the holiday season. Check your local listings for that. Enjoy the Children's Choir as much as we, as a Hamilton tradition, enjoy the Yuletide log. Happy holidays, all my colleagues and friends.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to extend my very profound gratitude to all of my colleagues on council for being so welcoming and so supportive over the past few weeks as I have learned started to learn the ways of City Hall. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to start to get to know all of you, and I'm really, really looking forward to working with all of you over the next 4 years. And it's a joy and a pleasure and an honor. Right after this meeting, I am scooting off to beautiful Ward 1 to celebrate the first night of Hanukkah at Adas Israel Synagogue and the Hamilton Hebrew Academy. As this council will know, Hanukkah is the Feast of Lights, and I'm really looking forward to bringing more light into the world with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all, members of council. And for myself, happy Hanukkah to all of our friends in the Jewish community, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all the rest. There's some great events happening throughout our city, actually, and I encourage everyone to get out into all of their communities. There's lots of lovely lights. All the stores are open, and there's lots of activities happening in all of the downtowns and all of the areas in our community. So enjoy your city. It is a great place to be, downtown or otherwise, in downtown Stony Creek or downtown Flamborough, Waterdown, in downtown Dundas, Bimbrook. All of those places have great activities going on, and go out and enjoy them all. Let me also thank all of our good staff. You know what? None of this happens without the good hard work of a lot of great people that not only organize our council meetings, but all of our reports. It's the end of the year. We can certainly express our gratitude to them all for their continued effort on our behalf and on behalf of our citizens, and we wish them all a great and merry and happy Christmas. So on behalf of all of us, happy and Merry Christmas. Before you all leave, we do have another meeting. It is the HSR meeting that we have to conduct, the Street Railway Company Board of Directors, which you all are, so please don't run away before we get that done. And I want to turn to Deputy Mayor Councillor Collins and have a motion on the bills, please.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And it's moved by myself. I've lost my seconder, and I'm going to go to Councillor Green as my seconder, that the bill list be amended by adding Bill 341 as follows, and you have that in front of you. It's been moved and seconded.
Thank you. In the absence of any discussion, I'll read the bills. Bill number 320, 321, 322, 323, 24, 325, 326, 327, 328, 329, 330, 331, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 338, 339, 340, 341, and 342. Thank you. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Farr, seconded. Sorry? There is no 342? Sorry. Do tell. What did we miss?
The motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve the draft bill as amended entirely.
Oh, okay. So the draft bill as amended. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Farr, seconded by Councillor Pearson. A motion to adjourn. Carried. So do stay behind. We have one. It is the HSR. You are a board of director of the Hamilton Street Railway, and we have to have a meeting to do a couple of items, and it'll be quick. It should be in your binder. So, pros, everyone has a copy of that? Okay. Okay. Does everyone have a copy? No? Okay. Councillor Jackson, you have a copy? I have a copy, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Anyone else needing a copy? Rose, have we got? One sec. Just want to make sure everybody has a copy. Okay, let me call this HSR Railway Company meeting to order. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Changes to the agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair.
Are there any declarations of interest? Hearing none. Thank you. Approval of the minutes. There are no minutes. Are there minutes? There are no minutes. Thank you. So we turn to item 5, resolution of the Board of Directors, the Hamilton Street Railway Company resolution of the Board of Directors. All in favor of the recommendation? Carried. Thank you. Motion to adjourn is moved by Farr, seconded by Marula. All in favor? Carried. Thank you all. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.